It is 6:30, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. This is another venture into Zoom meetings in public and meeting in person, so. All right. Is there anybody here for public input?
Good evening, everyone, council people. This is Gary Zimmerman. I live at 224 3rd Street South, Waite Park. My concern today is the crosswalks in Waite Park. They need to be taken a look at. They over by Bethlehem, by that church over there. That crosswalk it's washed away, and one over by Burnix there. That crosswalk is pretty much gone. What's somewhat there over by Casey Store in that same neighborhood. That crosswalk needs to be refreshed, and then over by the cemetery by Burnix over there. That crosswalk needs a new coating over there too, and then over by 2nd Avenue South and Dundee, how you pronounce that? Anyway, that crosswalk needs to be refreshed too. And then over by my place, over by Northern Tools, and over by Northern Tools where I live at Legacy Apartment, that crosswalk needs to be re-looked at too. So, because sometimes cars do not see, I've known myself going through it, sometimes cars do not see that. And I think if we had a fresh coat of paint before winter falls, don't we usually do that?
That's usually a fall thing. We'll start it pretty soon now. You're right, Gary. We'll be looking at those.
Yeah, because it just seems a little bit unsafe. Okay, and my other concern of wisdom is I want to bring to your attention, as you know, Charter Communication does not have the public access. I was told down the road that either the St. Cloud or Waite Park would have where we could play back the tapes. Have that said, with our franchise agreement, have you ever thought about doing that and taking that number 178 over again where people could drop off and sign a contract and all that? Mayor, Council, Shannon?
John, can
I can
address
speak
that.
on that, yeah, and what I've been told by charter is that only one entity can do it, and that St. Cloud was the one that was looking at doing that. We had already had a proposal that looked at putting that all together and have it on hold because we're waiting on charter to determine who's going to have the ability to do it.
Yeah, because they've been out there since of 2000, on 2020. So, yeah, it would be nice because what they did is when they didn't have the studio anymore, Phil, who worked there, he would just put in the tapes and et cetera, and then the people who are nonprofit could have a community count. When it wasn't a program, they could have the community counter on running it too.
When Charter first approached us with it, the lady that we worked with made it sound like we had one channel between all of us, and that's not the case. It's one channel amongst all of the area cities together. And so my understanding, it's in Charter's hands right now, so there's an interest that we've expressed to do that, but it's something that they have to give us the authority to do, or have someone else step up to the plate to do that, so.
Yeah,
And I know they
because
were looking at St. Cloud as well.
St. Cloud doesn't seem want to do anything with that, and it's just a shame. Some people, there was a handful that really enjoyed that. And one other thing real quickly is with the news leader, do you ever see that ever coming back, or where Waite Park could have,
No.
the news leader doesn't do it, where Waite Park could have a paper?
I don't see the news leader coming back. I had a conversation with them maybe a year and a half ago, and we all know that newsprint is on the way out, and so they have really no interest in even pursuing that. Whether somebody else, it does boggle my mind that Sauk Rapids can have a big paper, and Cold Spring has their paper, and Waite Park's got as many businesses or more than both of those combined, and yet we don't have a paper. But at this time, there's no.
But doesn't the Sauk Rapids, don't they have the news leader in Sauk Rapids and St. Joe too, right?
No, they have it Sartell and St. Joe, and the Sauk Rapids Herald is separate.
Oh, it is, okay. And then also to close up is, have you ever thought about putting your agenda, you used to have, like on channel 181, so that we can kind of see what's happening at the meetings? It was going for a while, Shauna, but then it just kind of fizzled out.
You mean ahead of the meetings?
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose we could probably, when we changed our, stuff, I'll talk to staff about that. Yeah, I bet you, we do all of those, they're all on our website, but, I guess I thought that they also put them on that channel. Yeah, we could do that, most certainly.
And what is the city, because I got to go to St. Cloud Library, what is the city web address?
It would be, www.ci.waitepark, all one word,
Okay.
.mn.us.
All right, them are just my concerns. So then what you're saying to close up, that the crosswalks will be starting now?
Yeah.
They'll be looked at this fall, yep.
Okay, I appreciate your time, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Council.
you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Anyone else for open forum? Anyone on the phone?
Nope.
All right. All right, I need review and approve council agenda.
No additions. I'll move to approve as presented.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Consent agenda, item A, approved 2 AM liquor license renewal for Silverleaf Lodging Group doing business as Mavericks.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Is that you?
Mike, yeah.
Mike.
I hardly heard you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Item 6, and item A, variance, 1101 Division Street, Ultimate Sports Bar. John?
I put up a. We have received a variance request from the owners, operators of Ultimate Sports Bar for variance from ordinance 52.27 subdivision 6C, which would be a reduction from the front and corner side yard setbacks from the ordinance standard of 30 feet to 0 feet. This request is being made in order to facilitate the rebuilding of the property in a slightly different footprint and configuration than it previously had prior to the fire that destroyed it earlier this year. I'm sure everyone's well aware this was a long-standing structure and considered legally non-conforming in its previous layout, in that it was located against the property lines on both the, eastern, it says western, but it is eastern, and southern lines of the portions of the building. In being destroyed by accident through no fault of the owners, the structure could be replaced to its previously existing footprint without any special need for special approval or permission. Alternately, it could also be moved to the north and perhaps even closer to the adjacent residential properties without approval or variance, provided it would stay within the building envelope. However, the owners and operators are taking the opportunity to pursue a significant redesign of the building, which would extend the building along the previously utilized outdoor area on both the, again, eastern sides and southern sides. I put a little quick sketch up on the screen that shows the approximate addition areas that are being considered, pushes it approximately 30 feet to the north along the eastern side and about 10 feet to the west along that southern side. Since this would be an expansion of the previous non-conforming areas, we had determined that a variance would be required after review of the ordinance and some consultation with the city attorney. The foundation of the structure remains in structurally sound condition. It's been approved for use by an engineering firm and would be utilized to the greatest extent possible in a proposed rebuilding of the structure. Staff would note that there are several issues with the property that, while unrelated to the main building itself, that should take the opportunity to address, including the gravel areas under common ownership. Some of those can be seen on the screen. That must be hard surface with concrete or asphalt in order to be brought into compliance with city ordinance. Screening of the property from residential areas to the north and east would have to be completed per the previously noted city standards that have been addressed a few times with the applicant, even before the building came down. That issue was created when the previous house to the north, you can see that on the screen, before that was destroyed in 2019, and that issue is yet to be fully resolved. and temporary signage that was in place on the previous Ultimate building that would not be allowed to be reestablished to its previous degree and would have to hold to city standards regarding signage. I am supportive of the variance allowance and believe that the applicant has demonstrated practical difficulties in adhering to the current standards of the ordinance and proposing use of a structurally sound footing foundation. Locating a commercial building against the corner of a pedestrian scale commercial property with parking behind it is generally considered good design and planning practice, and this would further that concept. I would also add that this particular variance request puts the structure as far away from the adjacent residential properties as is feasible. The building could be, without variance or special approval, be located within 50 feet of the residential properties to the north, which would be about 25 feet further north than it's depicted here. The Planning Commission did review the request at their August 12th or 2020 meeting. We did have a couple neighboring residents that commented on the proposal, including 2 that expressed concern with the operations of the property and its impact on neighbors. A letter submitted from an adjacent property owner was attached in your packets for review and consideration. Another neighbor claimed that conditions regarding screening or landscaping related to a previous approval of some sort for the property were not maintained. I've been reviewing documentation. I haven't determined what particular issue that may be referring to yet, but I'm still trying to locate that if there is something in place. I did, with the Planning Commission's input, opt to include a condition of recommended approval to specifically outline that. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the variance with the 4 conditions established. I would add that staff and Planning Commission did invite the neighbors that had concerns that were kind of tangentially related to the building, more so with actions of patrons regarding noise or kind of behavior issues. They were invited to attend the open forum tonight or at any city council meeting where their open forum is held, but I didn't see anyone in attendance tonight, but they may make themselves present in the future. In staff's opinion, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to other uses existing and permitted in the area, then staff would recommend approval of the variance as requested with the following conditions. Number 1, all gravel areas of the subject property, including those adjacent and under common ownership of applicants, shall be hard surfaced with concrete or asphalt by June 15th, 2021, and before any issuance of certificate of occupancy, be it temporary or final, for the property. Number 2, screening of property from residential areas to the north and east must be completed by June 15th, 2021, and before any issuance of certificate of occupancy, either temporary or final. This would include completion of the previously installed fence on the northern boundary to have both sides finished per city ordinance requirement, and provision of fencing at 6-foot height along eastern parking lot boundary adjacent to residential areas. Screening plan would be subject to my approval and my review approval. Number 3, property shall be brought in compliance with city ordinances regarding signage and shall maintain compliance with city ordinance. Utilization of temporary signs on the building or upon the property is subject to standard city ordinance and permitting requirements. And lastly, number 4, full compliance with any previously approved conditions of approval for any special approval for the property, i.e. conditional use permit, variance, etc., shall be achieved by June 15th, 2021, and before any issuance of certificate of occupancy, either temporary or final, and fully maintained thereafter. Those being the recommended conditions, I would close my report and open it up for questions or comments.
Council, got any questions?
Yeah, I kind of talked to John a little bit about this. The concern I have is,
Oh, sure.
it's gonna be a nice building. That property to the north, now that house is gone, and I just drove by there, and there is a fence up, I believe, from the south side of that garage going across. Is that right? Or is it up by the garage and coming, yeah,
It's
or is it,
right in this.
Mike.
It's right in this area here. There was a fence that was installed last year, at the onset of, kind of the issues that were created when that house came down. That house was kind of essentially acting as the buffer area between the residential properties. And some of these same concerns did come up when that house came down. The fence was put up, but it wasn't done totally correctly. But to the best of my knowledge, until last week, it did resolve most of the concerns, as I hadn't heard any real concerns since that fence went up.
And that is a separate parcel where that red line is, over to where the fence is?
These are, technically, they're all 4 separate parcels, but they're all under, common ownership.
Wouldn't it make more sense to make that one parcel? Then therefore, we wouldn't have to give the variance and it would be within the ordinance.
You mean regarding this variance request?
Combining.
Right.
You would still have to have a variance because the request is to push it against the property line.
But if you take and make that one parcel, those 2 parcels, make it one, it would all fall under one.
No, it wouldn't make a difference whether it's in its current configuration or whether we're all combined into one parcel. I know that, the operator of the Ultimate Tom has, kind of a land use agreement with the underlying owners. That's a separate party that they're kind of weighing options. But they could combine it all into one parcel, that would be okay, but it wouldn't change the need for this particular variance. Because the standard would be, I don't know if this mic will pick me up. The standard would be, without variance, this building would be pushed back this way 30 feet
Right.
and up 30 feet.
But I'm talking about the northern variance. If you would take that northern red line you have there, and you have 2 parcels now, one where your pen is and one to the north of there. And they're owned by the same person, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now if you made that one parcel as part of the Ultimate Sports, then there would be no need for that variance to the north, and we could just grant it to the east.
No, the variance isn't being, because it's common ownership, we're effectively not considering this line right here, this property line. The variance isn't for this component, it's for being as close to it is on this side.
To the east.
Yep, on the eastern boundary. Because it's extending this line, even though portions of the building were already located against the property line. And same here as in this case. This one is being increased to a lesser degree, going out about 10 feet and then up. Even though it wouldn't be any closer to the parcel boundary than it is now. The issue that needs the variance is that it would be extending how much of it is that close. So it's what we call increasing the degree of nonconformity. And you can see that, you know, I'll put up the floor plan here. And seeking to basically make this project cost viable, kind of relies on reusing those existing foundation
Well, I
details.
understand what's going on. I'm just asking if it would have been better to make the 2 parcels one. You wouldn't have had the variance for the north. You still would have the variance for the east and the south end. But you would make that more of a conforming piece of property than to have 2 parcels divided as one business.
It's really a horse apiece. There is no variance for this component being this far north. It's solely against the issue is solely with this line. It's not with this line. They could go out further here if they wanted to, or kind of modify the layout. It's solely because it's being pushed against this side. They could remove that line if they wanted to. It would be up to them. It doesn't make a difference for this purpose though.
Okay. And then the parking lot then that is there from that garage in the back there, that is what will be tarred or whatever.
Yeah, my intent, what I want to see is to bring it formally into line with city standards. And I've outlined this with the owner in the past. There's supposed to be and we don't see this too often because it's very, very rare that we have these kind of commercial districts that abut residential like this, that have been done anytime recently. But there is supposed to be a 15-foot buffer between residential property and commercial property with a mixture of trees or plantings or shrubs or fencing, some combination thereof. That's supposed to serve that kind of buffer. That only kicks in when you have a residential district that abuts a commercial district. There's supposed to be a 15-foot swath to kind of soften it a little bit. I'm not aware of any other areas in town that actually have that, but when this house came down, I thought it was something, knowing that the issues that were existing here was something that we should incorporate. So I'd leave it in the applicant's hands to come up with that plan, you know, as part of this, but that was part of the reason for the recommendations of approval as they are, or the conditions of approval that I recommended.
Yeah, because you don't talk about a landscape plan. Is that part of the construction or not?
Well, landscape plan could be part of the construction. I typically haven't been too staunch on landscape plans. I mean, assuming it would be something separate that we'd want to have along the frontage of Division Street or otherwise. I guess the landscaping plan for any street frontage would be separate from the
No, I mean, as part of the buffer to the residential.
Oh, yeah, I didn't reference landscaping specifically, but it's part of the landscape plan. It's part of the screening plan.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
Got it. So when you talk about the fence, you're including that?
In this case, yes.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a mixture of both evergreen, deciduous coniferous trees, shrubs, and fence, some combination thereof that achieves the goal of giving it some buffer. Like I said, I'm not aware of any areas in town that actually have that, but this is the only property that we have this opportunity, and we've also had a couple concerns with from residents nearby. So I think it warrants it to consider it for this case.
Yeah, it works good now with the new building and everything. I think it'll fit well, so. Any other questions?
I do have one. Is there a reason, or could that alleyway possibly be blocked off?
The vacation or potential alleyway vacation is something we've been talking about separately. We haven't brought it to the council yet, but we have had some discussion at staff level, and the folks at the Ultimate actually brought it to us for an idea probably last year, something that was a little more long-term in their playbook at that time. But we're talking about now, after speaking about it with staff, our goal was to bring it to an upcoming work session to see if there was perhaps a desire to do that.
Well, if you want to
we
vacate
would-
that, then it should turn 90 degrees one direction or another.
Yeah,
That-
You just don't dead it.
No, it
No,
should,
it couldn't be dead end. There'd either have to be probably a way out along this boundary up here, or less preferentially some sort of a hammerhead, but I don't think anyone wants that because it creates issues for snow removal and turnarounds.
Bill?
Yeah, fire trucks, plow trucks can't
Exactly.
get through that.
Bill, you got something?
Yeah, exactly. With the alley vacation, if you do it, you have to give us an out. So it's got to be an L, no matter which
Yeah.
way you want to do it.
Okay.
So, and the other thing that I'd like to have added, and I don't know if we can, the existing 3 parcels do have existing water and sewer services that were never capped at the street.
No.
So I'd like to have that also included in your motion. So,
The cap, sewer, and water.
cap sewer and water at the street, at the mains.
On the other parcels that's not being used on, remember, there was a house on it, there was a
2
gas
houses.
station and a convenience store or whatever, so
Yeah.
there's a couple,
Capped off?
yeah, they need to be capped.
Yep.
Yeah, because when Ken brought up the alley, I didn't know if that's an instance where we should put that ribbon of concrete. So we know where that right-of-way is, just like we did by Schultz Transmission and a few of them other areas where it delineates where that alley is.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, yeah, I would agree that I think, in all fairness to the citizens that live on that, to the people that live on that block and the town, it'd be nice to vacate that piece going north and south and make it go east and west. I think to me, it makes sense. It's up to Tom, I guess, if he thinks that's a good idea or not. But it's an equal amount of footage. So you don't gain or lose anything on it. You're gonna gain 100 feet here, but you're gonna give us 100 feet there. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. That works because if anybody doesn't know where there's an alley like that, go between 6th and 7th Avenue and between 1st and 2nd Street in Wade Park.
Yep.
I lived on that block for 14 years, and that's got the alley, and it works very well. It was plowed well.
Yeah.
Garbage trucks got around it.
Yeah, it works. If in fact he does not do it and it comes straight out to Division Street, and Tom, you are gonna redo, all that grading in there, then I would suggest that we look at doing some sort
Yeah,
of
if
joint
he's
project
gonna
to get the
remove all
ribbon,
that asphalt, that'd be the time we need to figure out where that
work-
ribbon of concrete gets.
to
put in
work
there.
with him to replace that and put that ribbon concrete in. Yes, I would agree.
Yes,
Yep.
and if it actually,
Actually, it
if
goes out.
you're coming down that alley and it turned to the east, that would be putting it on somebody else's property.
It should
not
turn
Tom's.
west because he's got a garage that he's not gonna take out of there. And if he turns it east, he'd lose a lot of property that way. If he turns it west, he wouldn't lose as much property.
But we could work with him on
Yeah,
that when it
yeah,
gets
he
down
can
to
work
those
on
final
it, yeah.
details, but yeah, I would agree. If we're gonna keep it straight and regrade it, put ribbon curb in.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Tom, you got anything?
No, I don't know if you guys have questions, in regards to, what the plans are. John had blueprints up there, in regards to, it's pretty close to the finality of what we're gonna do. Moving the bathrooms to the back part of the building where we've asked for the variance, so we could open up much more of, really what trying to create, to be truthful, is probably where the bar industry is headed long-term. And that's a more spacious environment, not necessarily built for more people, but for more distance and more room. I think the one thing that we're all gaining by it, it's a beautiful piece of property. Obviously, I'm putting myself in a better position to have a better opportunity in the business world. I think the city's gaining by what we're developing. I do think some of the concerns that I've dealt with over the years from some of the neighbors, I do think this building is really alleviating much of that. We're bringing traffic to the front of the building towards Division Street and trying to create that as our main entrance. Which will kick away much of the traffic on the back part of it. Where my deck is built and where the stage was with much of our outdoor music, we're moving that to the other end and directing that more at Division Street and building a beautiful canopy around that. So I think, many things have gone into the consideration off of what I'm trying to create, but it's also been where can we alleviate some headache long-term? I know you guys get it. I try to work with neighbors. I think it's catch-22. You gotta look at where you buy a piece of property based on what's around it. I do think we do our part really well to try to create as respectable as an atmosphere as the bar industry can allow you to be when you're 17 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're dealing in that type of atmosphere. So, but no, I don't know if you guys have any questions in regards to, where I'm headed with it or where we're trying to go time-wise. The alley is a critical part of what, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yep. All right. Anybody got questions for Tom or for John? Either one?
No, not
Thank you.
unless there's some kind of landscaping in front of that fence, in the end.
When would be, if this all gets approved and all goes through and everything, when would be ribbon cutting for the first beer at the Ultimate?
We're hoping to break ground late September, early October, if everything moves accordingly, and right now, everything's moving accordingly. With that said, then we're hoping March 1st would be the opening date of it. That is one thing that, and please understand that, off of what John was talking about, when the doors open, this is done from start to finish. Brand-new parking lot, landscaping, every aspect of it is a brand-new piece of property sitting on that premise.
Yep.
So,
Great.
Yes.
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, Tom. We want to move to approve?
I'll move to approve adding a fifth onto the 4 reasons for approval. Capping the water and sewer on that one property to
Vacant
the north.
3 lots. There's 3 lots, Mike.
3 lots,
3 lots.
3 lots.
lots to the north.
I'll second that.
Further discussion?
Can I just ask clarifying, did you approve the whole variance?
With
or
with the
that addition?
conditions.
Added the
Okay.
conditions.
Yeah,
I just
He
wanted to
added
make
a
sure.
5th condition. is
Yeah,
what he
with the
said.
5th condition. I just wanted to verify that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank
There you go, Tom. Thank you. Yep. Item B, consider police sergeant appointments. Vic?
Got it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the position appointment for one police sergeant, Anthony Resnick,
Residential.
Resnick.
President.
whichever, thank you. Pay grade 9, step 5, position date effective August 18, 2020. Number 2, police sergeant Rebecca Rose, pay grade 9, step 5, effective date August 19, 2020. And also to extend the eligibility list to April 1 of 2021.
August
August
31st.
August 31st.
August 31st is what you talked about.
Okay, August 31st, 2021. You know I don't hear that well down here.
Oh, second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. You got him, chief. Where's the chief? Sitting back there. All right. Item C, consider.
I gotta leave mine on so everybody else can hear, but.
And funding proposal.
So what you have in your, before you is CARES Act funds that the city received in the amount of $585,921 through the state of Minnesota, actually funneled through the federal government. And the items that can be used for are things related to public health emergency related to COVID-19 and things that were not accounted for in your budget as of March 27, 2020, and to current. And they have to be spent between March 1st and November 15th, so expenditures spent between that period of time. So city staff has worked on coming up with some ideas of how those funds can be spent. In your packet is a resolution that calls out those items, as well as an Exhibit A, which includes all of the items that we're looking at wanting to use for that. In addition to that, there's an attachment, Exhibit B, that shows the items that would be used for business. So this gives the opportunity for businesses as well to apply. In this proposal, the city has up to $100,000. And with that, then the county matches 25%, so it'd be $125,000 that can go towards those kinds of expenses. I'm just gonna pull the resolution exhibit up. So here before you are the items that we are looking at. We've got some turnout gear for the fire department to have a second set of turnout gear. In the police department, we have some laptops that creates a lot more flexibility with staff to be able to utilize in their vehicles, as well as when they're in the office areas, and gives more flexibility. We do have some equipment with some shields, and then also some CPR mask filters as well. Additionally, there's a cell phone booster and radio boosters that will give us the opportunity to utilize the downstairs more effectively with training and things like that. Reception down there is not very good, and with the downstairs being our main EEOC, that's an important part. In administration, we have some webcams that give us the ability to do some additional training conferences or meetings that we're all doing more and more of remotely. And then we're also looking at adding iPads so that not only council, but our planning commission and park board as well will also have those. That'll give us the ability to do any remote meetings that we may have to do, as well as making those park board and planning meetings more paperless. So all of that stuff can be done just by their laptops, like what we do with council. In public works, similar things that you see in other departments with adding some webcams, some laptops and vehicles to make them to be more of a remote workstation setting, and then replacing some computers to give us the ability to do some additional web conferencing as well. And then in the parks, we're looking at replacing some HIPAA filters in our hand blowers that we have in there to ensure that we're not spreading anything with that, or at least hopefully reducing that. And then a bulk of the dollars that we're proposing to spend is related to upgrading some of the technology in our training rooms here, both at City Hall, in also one of our rooms in Public Works. So the council chambers will give us the ability to do a little bit better in here with doing Zoom as well. And if you notice on our screens, we have 6, really 5, because one of them is me that's participating this evening. So it gives our audience the ability to do that, as well as some staff when maybe meeting in person is not always an option. It also looks at making some improvements to our upper level conference room, lower level conference room, EEOC, and our police training rooms, as well as our public works, really giving us the full ability to be able to have video conferencing and some additional training enhancements from a technology standpoint that we really don't have in place today. So with that, for now, we are looking at spending for those improvements, $377,000. We're also, as I mentioned, looking at our business grant program. That would be $100,000 that could go towards small businesses. And then from there, we would have the ability to, my other page got missed, still have a balance in our funds that gives us some flexibility to make sure that we have enough of our expenses covered, as some of these are just estimates at this particular time, and as we get into making some of these improvements, sometimes that changes. But we'll come back then with what I'm calling a second phase of CARES Act contingency, and what that balance is to determine how that is. And I'm looking at that to probably be the first part of October, being our business grant applications are good through the end of September. And so our grant program for the businesses, the criteria is very similar to that of the counties. And some of these applications will go through the county's website and then trickle down through us, but we will be administering that. And so some of the criteria that are listed here, it's really geared towards smaller businesses, so 50 or fewer employees. Businesses that have been open and operating on or before September 1st, 2019. All licenses required to operate the business must be in good standing with the city. Applicants must be current on their property taxes as of July 15th, 2020. They must demonstrate that they were directly or adversely affected by COVID related to that peacetime emergency. And also, if the business receives other funding for expenses reported within the application, these funds must be returned. So you can't use that if you're already getting it. So what it doesn't allow businesses are corporate chains, multi-state chains, unless they're a locally owned franchise, that is allowed. And businesses that derive income from passive investments, business-to-business transaction, real estate transactions, property rentals, or property management, billboards, or lobbying. It cannot be used for payroll taxes, but it can be used for expenses that are related to the emergency, and those more specifics are listed in that application process. So I just thought it might be good just for those that might be listening to go through some of that, and that this will be available, and applications will be accepted through September 30th if the council so chooses to approve the resolution this evening.
Council, any questions?
Just a quick verification. When they go to the county website, will our eligibility requirements be on there, and so that doesn't,
We will work through that with the county on those things to make sure that they understand that. They know we're passing ours tonight, so.
Someone happens to
Yep.
go on tomorrow?
And yes.
Well,
Our
Tomorrow it may not
application
be
won't
there.
be on there
I
by
would-
tomorrow.
Yeah, give them the end of the week.
It takes a little bit of time to put it all together.
No, I
People
did,
are
yeah,
listening and
Yep.
people are watching.
yeah. Give them till the end of the week and then. it should be
Anybody
up.
that's interested in that can certainly call and talk to John, and John can direct them and answer any of their questions. That's what I would do. If any of you get questions, or anybody that might be listening, if you have any questions or if you're interested to know whether or not your expenses might apply to this funding, and again, it is a grant, not a loan, so it's not something that you need to pay back, to contact our offices and we will help them through that process. That's my best advice right now, because there is some continuity that we have to work with the county to make sure that that's all working smoothly, so John is handling that on our behalf.
Any other questions, comments?
We do these separately?
We'll do the first one to approve the resolution, and then the second one to do the business.
I'll move to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. And the second one, Frank, would be for the business criteria.
I'll move to approve the CARES Act business criteria requirements.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Item 7, approve bills.
Move to approve the bills.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I don't have anything. And Shauna, you have anything?
Next Monday, August 24th, we're looking at doing our retreat. I just wanted to verify, does 1 to 4 work for you guys?
The 24th, 1 to 4.
Yep, and I'm working on the location right now, so I'll be in touch with you. And then the other thing I was gonna touch base with you on was our budget work session. And we, at that time too, we could do a work session to go over some of the stuff with the amphitheater. Mike, I know you had asked about that. I'm trying to get all of our items on all these agendas, so be patient with me as I try to do that. Some dates that I was looking at for budget, and I don't know how they work. September 1st or 10th are ones that work well with our staff, but also we had available the 8th and 9th. Do any of those work for you? And you
First,
don't have to
8th, and
let-
9th, is that what you said?
September 1st, 8, 9, or 10.
I won't be here the 8th, 9th, or 10th.
So does September 1st work for everybody else?
I don't know. What day is that?
It is a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And you don't have to let me know this right now, but I will follow up with you because I do want to try to get some of that set up if that's possible.
Open for me.
Like starting
if
6
it-
o'clock at night or what?
No, I'd prefer not to do it at that late. If we could start it earlier, that would work out better. Not at 6, but if we could start even at 4.
Yeah, I'll check into it.
You can let me know, Frank.
All right. Anything else?
We do have I'm just gonna pull up on my calendar here, just because I can't remember the time. RSVP is doing a thank you event, in our parking lot, just a way to thank our volunteers, in the afternoon, beginning at 1:30, so that I'll be here in the parking lot, so anybody that, has participated in an RSVP or that would like to recognize any of those, it'll be kind of like a drive-by, kind of a thank you for your service kind of a thing. I'm on the RSVP board, so it's one of our duties our RSVP board is looking at doing. So just letting the public know that that's something that's going on. And our city does use the RSVP quite often, and they're a great organization to be a part of.
Are we still gonna have a council meeting September 7th?
If we do our work session on the 1st, it'll be either, not the 7th, it'll be the 14th or the 21st,
7th
is Labor Day. And we'll have to certify our budget, and so either the 14th or the 21st. So if
Of September.
yep.
Yep. Anything
And I'm
else?
hoping then that might be the only council meeting that we would need based off of what we have
In
right now.
September.
Yep, in September, yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
I just want to make one comment. I had a neighbor stop by the other day just to tell me that he had some issues he wanted to deal with, so he called City Hall. And he talked to Margie, and he was so complimentary about the response from the staff and the patients and things she took. So he just wanted us to know that he thinks the city is just a really great place to live.
Thank you for sharing that. I will pass it on.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't get a lot of
Positive?
I don't get a lot of disgruntled people, and I think that really says a lot about the staff that handle that.
I told Bill the same thing.
Chief, you got anything? No, sir. John? No. Bill? John? All right, then we are adjourned at 7:14.